10 random magic cards rated day number 113. Old chap, what might be our first card of the day? It's Wall of Wood. We've actually covered Wall of Wood before. Let's not worry about Wall of Wood, although that is very good Rebecca Gay art. I like that. But Lord of the Pit. Whew! Lord of the Pit is coming up next, baby. This is... You can tell I'm a boomer, dude. Woo, look at this bad magic card. I love it. I've got memories. This is 7 mana, 4 and 3 black. For a 7/7 demon with Flample, that is both flying and trample. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature other than Lord of the Pit. If you can't do that, Lord of the Pit deals 7 damage to you. And then the old version says you may still attack with Lord of the Pit even if you failed to sacrifice a creature. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't think that was in doubt. I don't know why you feel like that's going to be a thing. I would question otherwise. I mean, anyway. This guy used to be so feared, man. You couldn't take him down with most things. Like Swords to Plowshares is the thing that kills him, because back in the day, like Terror didn't kill him, Weakness didn't kill him. Maybe you throw a Paralysis on him, but it's late in the game. They can untap the guy. You know, you can't kill him with a Lightning Bolt, or, Fireball costs 8 mana to kill the guy. It's just really hard to kill the dude once he's out. And you can animate Dead him into play like really super early and start doing stuff with him. He works really well with Breeding Pit from Fallen Empires, which just makes a 0/1 Thrall every turn, and you sacrifice it to him every turn. This was maybe one of the first half a dozen Magic cards I ever saw in my life. My buddy Kevin, if you're watching right now, what's up, Kevin? Took me, our fathers both passed away around the same time, just within a couple of weeks of each other. And he left me like a note in class one day, like on my desk, was like, "Hey, I'm Kevin. We don't really talk that much, but my dad just passed away too. I know yours just did as well. So if you wanted a friend, somebody that knows what you're going through, let's talk, whatever." So I decided to hang out with Kevin. Went over to his house one day, play some video games, and unbeknownst to me at the time, become introduced to Magic the Gathering. At the age of 11. So with that said, we hadn't even played a game yet. He was just like, "Hey, check some of these cards out." And I was like looking through a pile of cards. And one of the first cards ever, I think the first card I ever saw with my eyes was Mons' Goblin Raiders. And again, maybe the 5th or 6th card I ever saw with my eyeballs as a young, impressionable child, whose father had been a magician at one point in his life, who had always played Final Fantasy with his father. 3 nights a week I played, Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 3 when they were released in the States. This is me and my dad's jam. It's how we spent time together. So when I was introduced to Magic the Gathering just a couple of weeks after my dad passed away, it reminded me of Final Fantasy. It reminded me of the fact that he was a magician and how much he would have probably loved this game, right? So I say it a lot, but thanks, Kev. If you're watching, thanks, Kev, for introducing me to this game. It means a lot to me. And just for reaching out to me after your dad passed away and mine passed away. It takes bravery to do that as an 11 or 12-year-old kid. You don't know what response you're going to get. But you definitely took my life down a sort of branching path that I wouldn't be sitting here today doing what I'm doing if it weren't for Magic the Gathering and Kevin. So really, man, thanks a lot. Then you stomped my face in a few times with this guy back in the day. I learned to fear him very much and also think he was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I still feel that way. Look how cool this guy is. He's not as good as he once was. So I'm going to give him the honorary 5. I will even give Lord of the Pit an honorary 6. I will do it. I will give him that. There was a point where this dude would have been a 7.5 in the early days of Magic, of kitchen table Magic between, not even teenage boys. This was one of the more feared game pieces available to us in a very limited set of game pieces at the time. So, oh, Lord of the Pit. I miss you, dude. I miss that. I miss Magic making me feel like that. So, at the risk of feeling wistful at this point, I will start moving on. Next is Springleaf Drum, a very good Magic card as well. Originally printed in Lorwyn, this is a single mana for an artifact, tap it, and an untap creature you control to get a mana of any color. Pretty good for just a single mana. That also puts an artifact into play. That's a good thing, right? Turn any creature into a Birds of Paradise. Let's kind of go. This has seen a good amount of play throughout, its time in Magic. Some versions are $200, serialized retro artifacts. Some versions are $660. because they're from the original set, Lorwyn. And then some versions you get for like 27 cents, like this retro artifact from Brothers War, which I actually think looks pretty slick. I do. So the Secret Lair one you get for 35 cents. That's a good deal. I think it looks pretty sweet. It's a great color palette on the art. Good job, John F. Malta. But still, this is just a slick little Magic card, dude. What do you give a Springleaf Drum? Let you tap down creatures that you want to tap down for whatever reason, right? Like we just got all these creatures that have survival in Duskmourn, and you want to tap those down. Springleaf Drum's good with all of those, right? Kona, whatever. So I like Drum, man. I'm going to give this a... Jeez. Ask the audience. I'm going to ask the audience on Springleaf Drum. I haven't done it yet in this week. In like 3 days, I haven't done an Ask the Audience. So let me know how you feel about Springleaf Drum. I'm going to rate it pretty well, though. 5.4. 5.53. 5.53 for Springleaf Drum. So serial, dude. Like, I think this card's great. Always will be, too. But we'll move on to Scavenging Ooze, dude. The hits, baby. The hits today. Printed in, not really, Commander 2011? Is that really the first printing of this card? Oh, my God. Apparently it was. It's kind of insane. I would have thought it would have been Magic 2014. Huh. All right, printed in Commander 2011, Scavenging Ooze is 1 and a green for a 2/2 Ooze. You can pay a green to exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, Ooze gets a +1/+1 counter, and you gain a life. Just the quintessential, mess around in graveyards creature that really influenced a lot of design moving forward from it. When it was brought into Standard, it saw a good amount of play in the original couple of Standard sets it was in. And then when it was printed in Core Set 2021, it saw a fair amount of sideboard play. Card sees play when it hits Standard most of the time. There's a reason for that. It does cost mana to do stuff in graveyards, but this card almost bars, Reanimator decks from existence. It's not quite the same as an artifact, right? Like a Ghost Vacuum, which is good enough, or an Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which is good enough, or a Soul Guide Lantern, which is good enough. These are all really good, cheap artifacts that any deck can play that show up in a lot of Standard environments, and they don't even necessarily completely cut out the existence of graveyard strategies. Scavenging Ooze tends to, because it's a threat. Those other cards aren't a threat. This, however, takes them off their game plan, gains you life, and gets larger as the game goes on. So they have to have removal for it. If they don't, they're more or less cooked. Even if they do find removal for it, it's probably messed up their plan for enough turns that it's hard to turn around against you. So Ooze has really served a function for a long time, 13, 14 years now. And again, every time it's in Standard, it does something. I want to give this a 5.77. No, I don't. I want to give it a 5.7. Just that. I think that's about right. Scavenging Ooze is just a really very good Magic card. Even though you have to spend the mana, it's still very, very good. Wildfire, nice. Okay, so originally printed apparently in Portal Second Age, which I'm not even sure I was aware of, and it's got really cool art, but the first time I remember seeing it was in Urza's Saga. This is still 85 cents for this version, but that's not that bad. 6 mana, 4 and 2 red for a sorcery. Each player sacrifices 4 lands, then Wildfire deals 4 damage to each creature. Jesse Fish, if you're watching, and you're probably not, I've still got, Kev probably is, he might be watching. Jesse Fish, though, I have still got your Wildfire. That says where the guy, you put a little speech bubble where the guy on the card is going like, "Oh, Nutter Butters." I've still got it. I've had it for like 15 years. Come get it from my house. The same thing with, oh God, I can't remember the name of the card, but he's like the 2 mana, 2/1 elf that you can sacrifice to blow up an artifact or enchantment. And he's doing this in the artwork, and you've drawn a ring and a little speech bubble that says, "Behold, I am engaged." It's a really funny altar. And I've got it at my house. I've had it in my possession for 15 years. Come get your cards. I want to put the Wildfire in cube, and I think I have put the Wildfire in a cube before. And every time I see it, I think about you, buddy. It's goodness gracious, come get your Wildfires. This is still a good Magic card. It really is still a good Magic card, and it saw some Standard play as evidenced by its placement in the World Championship decks of the time. But it's seen some reprints over the years, right? This one from 7th edition, the foil 7th edition black bordered one, is $70. It's nuts. But to me, this is the Wildfire art. You know what I mean? Dude, we're getting the hits today, baby. I'm going to give Wildfire like a 6.3. This is still really good in Commander, dude. Each player sacks 4 lands, and then it does 4 damage to each creature. Like, that's a red sweeper that also is almost an Armageddon. Like, what a disgusting Magic card, dude. It still is, and it certainly was back then, too, man. But Phto Burst is up next, only ever printed in Dragon's Maze. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a sorcery that makes target creature get +5/+5 till end of turn. At sorcery speed, so it's just not as good. This teaches you the lesson that you really want your, I was going to call them burst spells. Why? Your pump spells to be instant speed. 5/+5/+5 is really tempting, but you shouldn't do it. I promise you. I'm going to give Phto Burst a 3.8. Moving on is Tharn Gollum, though, printed in Urza's Destiny. This is 5 mana for a 3/3 artifact creature that is also a golem. As long as it's enchanted, it gets +2/+2 and gains first strike, flying, and trample. Okay, man. So you get, if you enchant it with anything, if you throw a Rancor on it, then it is a 7/5 flying first strike trample. That's a lot of fun, you know? It's not good, though. It's just kind of not good. Even in your Enchantress decks and Commander, you probably don't want it. It's probably not good enough, you know? But I still think it's neat. So. Also, if you want a 9th edition foil, which they were still doing black bordered foils and white bordered non-foils. So the foils tend to be a lot. But if you want one, it's $1. That's actually a very cheap price for a 9th edition foil. Rare. So, interesting pick right there. But still, the Urza's Destiny one's only 50 cents. And it looks really cool. And it's got the awesome set symbol that I've always liked. The little beaker. I like it. But still, let's just throw a 4.5. I want to throw a 4.5 at this. Any deck can play it, and if you've got like an interesting aura to put on it, then like maybe it does something cool. You know, even if it's just like, this guy's unblockable now, that seems okay, you know. But we'll move on to Perilous Mirror here. Originally printed in Scars of Mirrodin, this is 2 mana for a 1/1 artifact creature that's also a Myrrh. When Perilous Mirror is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to a creature or player. That's actually okay. It's been a long time since I've seen this. This is a Eliopile, I think, is the name of the card from Fallen Empires, right? This is a 2 mana artifact that when it dies, it shocks a thing. And like, okay. 4.3? I'm serious, dude. Like, better than it looks. While still not actually being very good at all. We'll move on to Gutter Snipe. It's Gutter Snipe, everybody, from Return to Ravnica. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 2/2 Gabo Shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. If you want to know, you know, if you want an idea, a perfectly distilled idea of what I think fun in a game of Magic is, look up fun in the Dev Magic Dictionary, and here's Gutter Snipe. Here's Blood Artist, really, but Gutter Snipe is a treasured card for me, man. A lot of people really love, you know, Ravnica as a set. I want to make sure this premiered in Return. It did. Okay, just making extra sure. Felt like it was, you know, later than that even. But yeah, Gutter Snipe is a beloved creature for a reason. It really is, man. If you have one on the board, or if you can copy it and create a bunch of, you know, different versions of it, then things start getting out of hand pretty quickly. 2 damage is a lot. You know, it's not just a ping. 2 damage is 2 damage. That's double a ping. That is literally twice as much as a ping. 100% more. Yeah, am I getting my point across? Just Gutter Snipe is very cool. He doesn't tend to stay on the battlefield for a very long time. He's got like a giant target, a bullseye on his back. But if you just be, you know, when those turns where you are able to have a Gutter Snipe out, maybe even untap with a Gutter Snipe out, make a copy or 2 of them with a spell, get 2 damage, get 4 damage, get 6 damage, get 8 damage because you cast a 1, like a Ponder or something after it's all said and done. It's all so much fun, dude. This is, like the Swan Princess said, this is my idea of fun. I think that Gutter Snipe is going to get a 6, dude. You get a 6. You're a little bit fragile, and you're not always going to be able to do everything you want to do with them. But again, dude, like, sometimes you invite him to the sleepover, and you have all these ideas like, dude, we're going to play video games, we're going to eat candy, we're going to stay up late and watch like shows we shouldn't be watching together. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a whole lot of fun, dude. We're going to raid the fridge. We're going to drink some sodas. We're going to go out in the backyard and play home run derby. It's going to be a good time. And then sometimes he calls up and says, hey man, got hit by a removal spell. Can't come over tonight. You're like, my weekend's ruined. But other time, the boy makes it to your door and rings the doorbell. You know what I mean? And then you get to let him in and have all the fun you wanted to have. And Gutter Snipe's amazing when you get to do it. So I'm going to give him a 6. Let's just do that. Mines of Moria is up next from the... Can you guess what set that's from? This is a legendary land that ETB's tapped unless you control a legendary creature. You can tap it and add a red, or you can tap 4 whole mana and it. So 3 a red and tap it, and exile 3 cards from your yard and create 2 treasure tokens. So just a solid thing, man. Still commands over $1. Over a year after the set came out, and that's because it's not... I like lands like this because it's not necessarily a land that you feel forced to play if you're in red, but it's kind of a land you might as well play. You know, there's a lot of legendary lands that I feel like you absolutely have to play, and I hate it because, again, they just feel mandatory. But this doesn't necessarily feel mandatory. If you do have it, though, it's probably going to help. You know, you're likely to have a legendary creature because, you know, you're a freaking commander deck. Especially in decks with tons of legendary creatures. Again, you do in that case kind of feel obligated to play it if you're in red. But it's really good then. Even if you only ever get to use its ability like once, it's pretty good. So I'm going to give this a 6. I think that's about right. Moving on to, I guess, the final card of the day. It's Vats from Fallout. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for an instant with split seconds, so it can't be responded to once it's on the stack. Choose any number of target creatures with equal toughness. Destroy the chosen creatures. Such a cool representation of Vats, which is my favorite part of Fallout, is just the Vats system, period, is my favorite part of Fallout. One of my favorite combat systems of all time. Even if I haven't played enough of the new Fallouts, you know, I played Fallout 3, I played some of New Vegas, and then I didn't play any more Fallout. I played a lot of Fallout 3, and Vats is sick, but still, man, a cool representation of it. And even though this is a black sweeper that's never going to take out like every creature on the table, sometimes it could take out like the largest dudes on the table, and that's pretty good. This still is a little bit too expensive. The normal version of it is just 80 cents though. But, you know, Fallout is a weird set. It's either the cards are really expensive or they cost nothing, and this is kind of in the middle of that, which you just don't see very often. But still, I like that 82% is showing at the top of the card here. And it cost 81 cents. That is very close. Vats was almost exactly correct. But let's put a 5.2 on this because like it could be a one-sided sweeper. Those are typically amazing. So thanks for letting me jaw about the early days of my Magic playing life and Lord of the Pit and what it means to me and all that stuff. I really went off the deep end there, but it was fun. Anytime I get to talk about that stuff, I'm slightly happier. So thanks for making me slightly happier. I love you. Bye.